So just like as we have loop within a loop, that's how we have function within a function, right? A function inside a function. So as usual, I would not be reading slides. As I've sent the slides in the classroom, so with the assumption that you have the slide with you, I'm going to practice with real examples, right? So what Python within a function within a function means is this: that you have a function that you've defined. Now, before you call that function, you define another function inside of it. Now, the rule in nested function is this: when you write the first function and then you write the second function, always call the second function first before the first function. That is the rule. So let's say I have something like this. Let me start with this. I want to define a function. Like I said, I would have to okay, I'll say define let's call this my function, right? And then I'll pass an empty parameter, and then followed by a colon. Now that's it. So I'm going to declare a variable called say a equal to, or let's say x equal to my name, right? Now inside this function, I'll define another function called another function. Let's call it my second function, and then I'll pass an empty parameter. Now inside this function, I'm going to say call something called, let's say y is equal to my second name, right? Good. Now this is the trick here. I will have to call this function first. Like I would have to call the first function first before I call the second function. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say now that I've said x is this, y is this, I'm going to now say my function two, so my second function, and then I will come back and then do the first function, which is this, right? And then I can now print the results I want. So I can say print, okay, sorry, I would have say print y, right? I'll come here, I'll say print x. All right, so now this is a simple example. So when I come and run this code, I have my name and my second name. So that's how nested function works. So you have a function, but the other function has a variable and prints that variable. But then inside that function, you have another function. Now that second function has another variable and then prints that variable. The idea is for you to call the first function first and call the second function second rather. Let me do something erroneous now. So if I do this, if I come here and then call the first function second, let's see what I'll get. So when I run this code, see that it returns an error. It tells me that name error, my function 2 is not defined, right? It's not defined. So I don't have to, I'm not supposed to call this function second because it's the nested function. So that's how nested functions work. As usual, I'm going to use an actual example to explain the concept of nested functions so we can see how it works in real life. So I'm going to comment this block of code out. All right. Now, the example I want to use here, let me think of something. So let's say, for example, we want to calculate a value, right? We want to do something like a function that adds two numbers and subtracts two numbers, right? Now, what our plan is that the function would have like the main function, which is like a calculator. Now, inside that function, sorry, please. Now, inside that function, we're going to have operators, the addition operator function and the subtractor operator function. So that's our problem statement, right? So let me say we are building a calculator. Let's say calculator function, right? Good. But now in this case, it's going to be a nested function. Now, like I said, we're building the first function, which is the main calculator. Sorry. So we're building the first function, which is a calculator, and then we're building the second function, which is one of our operator, the subtractor or the addition operator, and then we're building the last function. So in this case, we're even having two functions inside the main calculator function. All right. So now let's start. We're going to first start by defining our function, our main function. Now, what is our main function? Our main function is the calculator function. So we're going to start with defining it. I'm going to say define, let's call the calculator function calc. Good. And then we're going to pass an empty parameter because it's not really what we're doing. Now, inside that function, we're going to define another function. Now, we're going to define a function called our addition function, add, and then we're going to pass in two parameters because we want to add two values. Let's call those values A and B, right? And then we're going to pass the parameter, and then we'll close with a colon, and then we're going to return A and B. So we're going to, I talked about the return statement. What the return statement does is it kind of takes that parameter you've passed and it's returning that value back to the function such that when you pass an argument, it reads that same function. That's basically what the return statement does. So we're returning the A and the B. Good. Now we're done with this part. Now the next thing is for us to write our second function, which is the subtraction function. We're going to say define the subtraction function, which is sub. Let's call it sub, and then we're going to pass two parameters as usual. We're going to pass A, and then we're going to pass B, right? And then we'll close with this with the colon, and we'll return A and B as usual. And then we'll return A minus B. Now this is where the logic works because we're returning that particular logic. Interesting. Okay, so now we've written two functions, right? We can write as many functions, we can write all functions for all the arithmetic operations, but I want to stick to the normal, let's just do addition and subtraction that we have already. So I want to do something now. Now let's print our...
Hello, sir, please, sir. Hello, sir, please, sir.
Yes. Yeah, good evening.
Please,
I think
can you
continue.
zoom your screen because can you zoom your screen, please? Because I can't see it very clearly. It's too tiny from my end.
Okay, so what I would
You
do...
can
You are
actually
the
zoom
one that
your
will
own.
zoom it on your end. You are the one that
You
will
can
zoom
zoom
it
it
on
from
your
your
end.
own end.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I
I'm
think
using a
I'm
lap.
going to help us. I will help us by... I'll switch to Sublime Text. With Sublime Text, I can zoom to any size I want. Just hold on a bit. Hold on. Going to okay. All right. Okay. I'm switching to Sublime Text now. Is it big enough like this? Can we see like this?
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah, you can see.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
All right. Okay, thank you. So let me save it so that it works very well. I will save it in documents sorry, documents at
It's
class
because there's no light. See these
7.py.
videos. I want all of you to learn computer very well. I can play these videos
All right.
in the hand. I'll connect my laptop to the screen. We'll hear what they're doing. We'll be practicing.
Please mute
This is
your
how they write
mic.
codes.
All right. So I'm going to, but in Sublime Text, I'd have to run it with my command prompt separately so that you see the results. I have demonstrated how we can use this one
There's
in
an
Sublime
error. There's
Text.
an
So
error in your code, though.
yeah, I'm not done yet. I'm not done. All right. Okay. So I was trying to now print our results. So I want to call this calculator, right? Good. Now we've printed our calculator. This will be our heading, right? Okay, this will be our heading. And then we want to now perform the operation. I'm now going to say, let's print, let's say here, I'm going to format it to be, let's say 5. I'm using 5 now. I can use any number as I want. Can I say 5 plus 6 is now equal to, now this is where I call the function. I'm not going to call that function. Now that function I defined was add, right? So I'm going to say add. Now I'm going to now pass the argument. The argument here is 5 and 6. So I'm not going to say 5 and 6. In this case, 5 and 6 is representing A and B because A and B are my parameters. Now, because I'm calling my arguments, my arguments are my actual values. So I'm not going to say 5 and 6. That's for add. I'm not going to say print. Let's try something. Let's do subtraction. Let's use 5 and 6 too. No, let's try something. Let's say 12 and 7, right? Will now be equal to, and then we'll now say sum, which is the second function that we created. We're now calling that function. We're passing the argument 12 and we're passing 7 as an argument, right? Then finally, the next thing I'm now going to do is to now call my entire function. I'm not going to do, I call the function calc. I'm not going to say calc and then call the function. Now, this is what I have. So let me explain the code again from beginning before I run it. So I'm talking
Hello.
about, I'm explaining the concept of,
Hello.
yes, yeah,
I think
please ask your question.
you're kind of fast.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let me slow down. All right. So let me explain the code from beginning again. Now, last time we talked about functions, we said that the syntax in functions for Python is you first of all start with the define keyword, which is this. And then you move on to the name of that function, which is, you can use any name, but please don't use Python reserved keywords. And then followed by a parenthesis. Now, in this parenthesis, what's in your parenthesis is your parameters. After your parenthesis, you have the colon. And then finally, you call your function. That's the syntax for calling functions in Python. But now we're looking at nested functions, functions within a function, right? Good. So I'm saying that what this means is that there's a function that exists inside a function. But here I'm using an actual real world example. So we want to build a calculator function that helps to perform two operators. This calculator function is going to do addition and subtraction. So now in the calculator function, the main calculator function, we want to call in two more functions in it, which is the addition function and the subtraction function. So we've first of all, we've defined the calculator function, which is the mother function. And then now we want to perform the main operation, which is addition. So we now, inside the calculator function, we now define the addition function. Now we defined it, we call the function name add, and then we passed in two parameters because we want to add two numbers. If I wanted to add three numbers, I would just do A, B, and C, and then come here and return A plus B plus C, right? But in this case, I'm just adding two numbers. I don't want to add anything more than that. Two numbers. I'll now return those two numbers. What this return does is that it takes this value, it takes the value that I'll be passing, and then it will now store it in that function, in the parameter. That's what the return statement does here. So I'm returning A plus B. So any argument I pass later on in my function will now be returned as A and B. I'm done with that one. Now, because the addition and subtraction, they both coexist in the calculator function, it's now going to be a function. Remember, indentation matters a lot. They are both on the same line. So I'll now create a new function called subtraction function. If I wanted to create another function inside the addition function, right, I will now create another function called define again. But I don't want to do that. I created the subtraction function and passed two parameters because I want to subtract just two numbers. And then I'll return those two numbers, A minus B. Now, I'm done with function definition. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to now return my result, display my results in my console. So I want to display my results. So I'm going to start with, first of all, I just want to format it. So I said print calculator. So what I have is my first output line would be calculator. Then I'm now saying that I want to print something called 5 plus 6 equal to the result. But now the result is in a function. So I'm not going to call a string 5 plus 6 equal to, now this is where the logic happens here. I've called the function add because I've already defined it, and then I've passed the argument 5 and 6. So anywhere it sees 5 and 6, it replaces it with A and B and then performs the addition operation. The same thing applies to line 19, where I have 12 minus 7. I would now call the function subtract and pass in two arguments, 12 and 7. What it does is it goes to the subtraction function that I've defined and then replaces 12 and 17 with A and B and performs an operation A minus B, which is 12 minus 7. And then when I'm done, I've called the addition function here, I've called the subtraction function here, and then finally I will call the entire function, because if I don't call the entire function, I won't see my result because these functions exist inside the main function. So that's what this code block does. So now I want to view my results. I will go to my command prompt. Let me zoom out. Good. And then I'll go to Python. I saved the file as class 7.py. So I'll say class 7.py. Hold on. Let's see what the problem is. Okay. All right, sorry. Okay, so I think there was something wrong with my terminal here. Maybe I didn't save the file properly. All right. Okay, sorry, I didn't save my file. Sorry. So let me save it now and run again. Okay, so you can see the result now. Are we seeing the result? So we first of all printed calculator, which is a string, and then we said 5 plus 6 is equal to, which all these are under the parentheses, a string. And then the result is now the function add. I now said print again 12 minus 7, which is a string because it was in quotes. Now the result is now sub, which is a function we called 12 minus 7, which gives us 5. So that is the result for this function that we created. Are we together?
Please, I have a question.
So that, all right.
Hello. Yeah, my question is,
Yeah,
I
I'm
am
with
at
you.
the
Please ask
command
the
prompt.
question.
I'm at the command prompt.
All right.
So, but I'm trying
All
to
right.
call my program. Is giving me error because it said Python cannot open file. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. How do I get? What do I need to do to get that directory correct? Maybe I think that's the issue.
When did you save? Have you saved your file?
Yes, I've saved in the desktop, in a folder in the desktop called Python.
What's the
Extension. What
extension?
extension
Is
did you
it
use?
extension?
EC.
Did you use .py?
Yes, I use .py.
So it's supposed to be the file name .py. That's what you're supposed to use to save your file. If you do that normally and you are on that particular folder, you're in the correct folder in your command prompt, it should work. You're supposed to just do Python spacebar, because Python here is telling us that the interpreter has to recognize the file, and
What I'm
then
saying,
just call the file name.
do I need to put desktop before Python?
No. You're supposed to mount on desktop. See what I mean? Okay, just follow me. Right? See what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to CD to desktop and hit enter. Now you see desktop here as part of your file part, your folder part. Here, see, I have desktop here. Now,
Okay,
if your file is
sorry. If I open the
okay,
what do you call it, command prompt, okay,
yes,
it's showing me user
just
slash. Okay, I should put CD.
yes, CD spacebar desktop,
Spacebar desktop, okay.
then desktop. You should.
Okay, then what do
Yeah.
I do next?
Now the file, your Python file, where is it? Is it just in desktop there?
It's in a folder.
Now CD to that particular, I don't know the folder, but CD to that folder, you know the name. So you're going to CD to
Okay.
that folder that you before
Oh,
you.
okay.
That's how you can do it. All right, please let's proceed. We're already running out of time. So but I hope we understood my code here, how nested
Your question.
functions work. All right.
I have a question.
All
My
right.
question is,
Yeah,
in
please
the
go
print
ahead.
this in a statement now, like you use 5 plus 6 is equal to. What if you just put it,
Yeah.
okay, print at 5 comma 6? It's not going to work. Or 6,
Yes,
like this one is
it will work.
5
But
6.
okay, it will work. I was just trying to format it so it makes more sense. Normally, I can do this. Just follow along with me. I can do this, right?
Okay.
I can do this, and I'll still get the same thing. It's just that it won't be formatted the way I want. I'll just say, sorry. I'll just hold on. Sorry. Okay. This is what I'll just have. Calculator, then the result, 11 and 5. I don't know if you understand.
Okay. Yes, I understand.
But basically, it works. Good. All right. So please let's proceed to there's something called the lambda function, right? the lambda function is kind of like a very important thing in Python, right? It's I'm trying to see how to explain it. So the lambda function is like a nameless function, right? A
Okay.
function that it's a very tiny function. It doesn't, you cannot define it with a name because it already exists as this keyword called lambda. So you're just, instead of defining function and then passing parameters as an argument, you just call lambda. So it's a nameless function, a function that you name that performs specific operation, just specific tasks. Usually it takes what the lambda function does is, if you pass in a parameter, it just takes in that parameter as it is. So, like as usual, I'm going to use a demonstration to explain the lambda function. So let's say something, let's do something very simple.
Sorry, I want
Let's
to ask a
say,
question.
okay,
Yeah, so if you once you get your results on your command prompt, is there any way you
yeah,
can
is there any way you can?
save it?
Not entirely. The idea is that you're displaying that result can only be seen on your console because that's what the print statement does, right? Now, let me explain something really. So if you saved your file as maybe for example code.py, right? And then you go to that folder in desktop, like not in your command prompts now, normally in your desktop file explorer, and you double click that folder, it's going to run as an executable file. It's going to open the command prompt directly and show you the result. So it's not necessary for you to save the result anyway because the result is already there. The result is in the print statement, which at all times, at any time you run that print statement, it shows you the result in the console. Except you want to maybe when you run it, you maybe screenshot your result or whatever, but you can't actually save it. I don't know if you understand what I just explained.
Okay, I understand.
So
What
you
I'm saying is in case you need to do maybe classwork or something and send to you. That's why I'm talking about.
no, just print screen your terminal window, your result for me. Just screenshot your
No,
result.
I'm saying
That's
if I'm using Sublime.
yes, you screenshot your code in your command prompt, screenshot your terminal, just screenshot it. The result you get in your command prompt.
Okay.
All right. So let me quickly use a code example to explain lambda function. So let's say, for example, we want to find the square of a number, right? So this way lambda function works. I'm going to say, let's say the square of a number. Let's first declare that variable. Remember, the lambda is what makes it lambda. So I'm going to now say lambda. Now Python recognizes lambda already. Lambda x. So it takes the value x, and this is how the syntax looks like. Your colon, and then that same x raised to the power of 2 because you're looking for the square of x. Now I want to view the result. I'm going to say print let me format it in such a way that makes sense. I'm going to say square of 2, square of x. I don't know any. Okay, I want to use a value. Let's say square of 4 is all right. Okay, so I'm going to use a comma to separate it, and then I'm now call that this thing, and then pass in 4, right? Okay, so when I save and then I run this, I get the square of 4 is 16. Now, this is what I mean. Let me explain this code. I said the lambda function is a nameless small function, right? You don't have to define the function. All you have to do is to create a variable, calling the lambda function, and print your result, right? Very simple. So now what the lambda function does is it makes your variable bear that function name. So here I've said that square is equal to lambda x. Here, x is our parameter. X is our parameter and x is our argument. I don't know, it's kind of a very crazy thing to explain. So here, x is our parameter, x is our argument. But the lambda keyword here will do all the job. So you're just doing x raised to the power of 2. So anywhere you call in this variable that we've declared for, this square, this variable becomes a function on its own. So anywhere you do print square and then passing an argument, any argument you pass takes in the parameter x. And that is what the lambda function does. So if I want to do addition, all I have to do is to change this operator to plus and then do, say, let's call this add. And then here I'm going to say add. And then when I save my code and run, I should get 6 because 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. That is what the lambda function does. Let me use a more sophisticated example to explain the lambda function. So let's say, for example, we want to, maybe I'll close with this one. We want to sort the number of students in class, say by score, right? From the maybe the person that scored highest to the person that scored lowest. Now, when I'm done with this, I'll explain where lambda function is very important. So let's say, for example, right. Okay. Let me comment this line of code. I'm going to comment this part. All right. Okay, so we have that we want to sort the number of students in a class based on their performance, their scores. Good.
Hello, please. I have a question.
Okay, sir. Go ahead.
The lambda x, what
All right.
kind of x is that? Because my own is telling me error.
This normal x as per x, like the letter x.
My own is
Man,
telling me error.
the same thing with me is telling me error.
Can you share your can you share your screen? Is it possible for you to share your screen? Let me see your code.
Syntax error.
Can you share your screen so that I'll see your code? Let me stop sharing so that share your screen so that I will see how your code looks like. Is it possible for you to do that?
Yes.
Okay, please. Mr. Linus, you can also share your screen too if you want. Okay, Mr. Lawrence, yeah, let me see your code.
Which one are you saying?
I'm seeing the meeting screen. Open your code in full.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
share.
I'm using two screens, so sorry, let me
Okay.
share the particular
All
one.
right. Yeah.
I
Please
I've shared my screen.
check the phone. Okay. All right. Okay. Please check that box. Show my screen anyway so I can see what you have there. Or please open your code so that I'm not seeing it. Open your code.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Oh, Mr. Linus, I just saw it now. Please open it again. Okay, all right. All right. Square equal to lambda x. Good. Can you? Okay. Now run it. Let me see the error you're getting. They said invalid syntax, right?
Yeah. Does it require indentation?
No. You don't need indentation.
The
I think
lambda,
what you're
does it have D?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it's LAMBDA. Is your lambda spelled with capital letter L? Please use small letter
Yeah.
L to see.
Okay.
Use small letter L. Let's see if it works.
Okay.
Can you see that it's highlighted now, Abi?
Okay. I think that's the problem.
Okay. Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, is it the same
Yes,
issue
I'm
with
fine.
you?
I think the mistake was in my lambda spelling.
All right, okay. It's okay. You're welcome. Thank you very much for sharing that. Okay. All right. Let me proceed. I was going to do, let me just do, I know that some of you are heading for the data science, the data analysis class. Let me just quickly do one last example and then we can call it a day, right? Can we do that? Okay. I'll take your answer as your silence as a yes. Okay. So I was saying that we let me just quickly write this code. So I was saying that we want to see sort the number of students in a class based on their score, right? All right. So I'm going to continue now. I'm not going to first of all, because I'm using the Lambda function. So I'm going to first of all declare the variable called students, right? And then in students, now because I have multiple students, I'm going to store them in a list. Now in that list, I'm going to store them in like a JSON file. So it's going to look like a dictionary. So I'm going to do the square bracket. I'll hit enter. And then I'll hit enter. Good. And then I would say I'll start with curly braces. And then I'll call the name of the student. Let's say student name will now be let's say the name of the student is John. And then we're going to say comma. I'm going to say the score of the student is let's say the score is 86, comma, and then let's say 86, right? Okay. Remember to sorry, because we are assigning this to this, so yeah, exactly. This is what we want, and then I'm going to separate the comma, right? I'm going to do the same thing here. So let's just say I want to sort for just 3 students. I'm going to say the name of this second student is Susan, right? And then the score of this student is let's call it 70. Okay, sorry, that's not it's a integer, so it's supposed to be this. All right, and then I'll use a comma to separate the second, and then we'll have the third student, which is we're going to call this student, the name of this student to be Sam, and then we're going to say the score of this student is let's call it 60. Good. All right, so now this is what we have. Now we've created this list. Sorry, I'm going to close this. All right, so we've created this list. So we have a list of students and their name and their scores, right? And then we're now going to sort them using the Lambda function. Now, in sorting them, I'm now going to say sort. Let's create a variable called sort students, and then let's say call them equal to, let's say sorted. There's a method, a function called sorted. We're going to use called students because we already created a variable called students, and we're going to pass in a key. Now that key is our Lambda function. So I'm going to say Lambda, right? And then we're now going to pass in the same student variable that we called, and we're now going to say now student. Inside that student, we're passing their score because we want to sort them based on their score. So we're going to use the score ID. Good. So now that we've done that, we're now going to, let's close with a comma, right? And then we're now going to reverse this to be true. Let's pass in this boolean true. Exactly. So this is what we want. But for this to work, we need to pass in a for loop. Let's say for I in we've already created something called sort student, right? Good. In sort students, we're now going to read through that list, and then we're now going to print those students based on, let's use the formatted string function and say student let's see if this works. All right, let's see. Students, then let's pass in the name. Let's say, sorry, let's pass in the name. That is the name that was in the list that we had before. So here we're going to pass this exactly, and then we're going to have scored. This is what this person scored. Sorry. Now we're now going to pass the score. Exactly. So this is what we want. So I'm going to use a this in here. And then I'm going to start with this so we don't conflict things. Good. So this is what we have. So if I run this code, I know that your other class has started, so I'm trying to see if I can quickly do this. Oh, sorry, this is not defined. Let's see. Okay, no, sorry. I'm trying to loop through, so it's going to be this, and then I'm going to loop through this. All right, so let me save this and run this. Good. So it has sorted them based on their score, right? Exactly. So that's basically what I was trying to demonstrate here. So let me quickly explain this code before we call it a night. So like I said, we want to use the Lambda function to sort students based on their score from the highest score to the lowest score, right? So now we need the student name and their score. In order to get that data, if you've seen something, if you've seen a JSON file before, it looks like this. This is how it looks like this. So this is how you share data amongst. Most web developers will understand JSON file, but in this case, we want to store this in our list. I talked about list, where a list is where instead of declaring multiple variables, we could have just done student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, or student 1, student 2, student 3. But we want to store them just in student variable. So you're going to create a list. Now in that list, you don't want to just pass only names. You want to pass both the names and the score of that particular name. So you're going to pass it as a dictionary. So you're going to use a curly brace. So inside the list, you're passing a dictionary. Now, inside that dictionary, you're saying name is assigned to John because they are all strings. And then the score for John is 86. You do the same thing for Susan and you do the same thing for Sam. So now we've declared our variable. Remember when we talked about Lambda function initially, you first of all create the variable and then you call the Lambda function. So we're now creating, this is where our function now works. So we are creating our function called sort student. That is our function. That's the function we're going to use. Now in that sort student, we are using the keyword called sorted. There's a method in Python that a function in Python that's called sorted. What sorted does is that it sorts values, either ascending or descending order. Now, what are we sorting? We are sorting the first parameter we're passing here is students. Now, in student, we're passing a key. The key here we're passing is lambda, and we're passing that lambda on the variable called student, on the parameter called student. Now, that is it. Now, this is where it makes sense. Now, I'm saying that students, we're now calling that for each student, we're assigning the score to each student, and then we're performing a reverse to be true. So if I actually made 60 first, it would have come last. That's basically what we are trying to do here. Now we've done that, but then the function is not working. So it's a list. It's a list, and we can't just view everything in the list by just calling one function. We have to loop through the list. This is where for loop comes in. So in for loop, we're going to create a for loop and pass in an arbitrary value called I. I can decide to use S, I can decide to use A or B, right? Now, this arbitrary value is what we're going to use to loop through that list. So I'm going to say for our arbitrary value I in our function sorted student, because in sorted student we've already assigned the list to sorted student. In this our function, it should print the name of that student and it should print the score of that student. So that's basically what this last line of code does. That is just what Lambda function in a more advanced method is all about. Okay, please, Mr. Emmanuel, I see your hand is up. Ask your question so we can call it a day.
Yeah, in a jiffy. I noticed that in the former code you used, lambda was in small letter, but now lambda is in capital letter, the L, and there's no error. What's happened?
Oh, really? No, it's small
Yeah.
letter. No, they are both small letters. They are both small letters. It's just that it was highlighted. Let me show you how capital letter works. This is capital letter.
Okay,
Eh?
okay.
Now this is small letter. Yeah, it's just the way my editor formats it.
Okay, I'm confused. Again, I believe
So,
this
all
Python
right, thank
class, one WhatsApp group, Abi.
yes.
But I'm not
Are
in the
you in the
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp group?
No, I'm only in the Google.
The meeting, right? The Google Classroom.
Yes, I'm there, but I'm not. I believe
Okay,
we have
can
WhatsApp group.
you drop your number? Okay, I'll drop my yes. Let me drop my number. Let me drop my number here. Send me a message so that for you to add you to the WhatsApp group. I'm dropping my number. Sorry. So on the comment section, you see my number there. So send me a
Okay.
message and then I'll get in touch with technical team. Then they will add you up to the
Okay.
and one last thing, please let's try to do the task I sent on the Google Classroom. I just demonstrated how you can submit your task. Please let's submit our task because we'll be issuing out certificates by the end of this program. So your assessments will be based on the task. I'm not saying you should do everything there, but do as much as possible. I want to see that we understand this thing very well, right? So please try and if you can submit it to the classroom, you can send it to the WhatsApp group and name your file with your full name so I can know how to sort the files and know how to document it, right? Thank you.
Okay.
And also not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel because the videos are posted there. We're planning on starting a short video series that explains each module in the course. So, for example, variables. There's going to be a playlist, so we have just a video dedicated to just variables. So, if you want to really understand it hands-on, instead of having to go through the whole class, right? So, we're doing that real soon. All right, thank you very much, and shout out to Professor Bojidon for this opportunity. We are here for you. So if you have any feedback, anything, any improvement you think as instructors or as a foundation we should make, please feel free to share them in class here or on the WhatsApp group or even in the Google Meet, even in the Google Classroom. Feel free
Can I?
to share them.
Hello, please. Can I
Yes,
briefly see that your code?
Okay, I'll share my screen again. All right.
Just briefly.
Can you see it now?
Like, why am I getting error now?
Can you share your screen?
I have seen your own. Okay, is there a comma? Okay, you put comma here and here after the John
Yes.
and Susan.
Yes. The comma separates the two values. This one
Okay.
is for this. This one is for this. So the
Okay,
comma
I mean
separates
at the
them.
S. Okay, I mean this comma. This
After the name.
after the 86, after the bracket. After the bracket, there's
Oh yeah,
a
after
comma
the
there.
curly braces. Yes, there's a comma. Yes.
Okay, and the next one after the 70, there's a comma again. Okay, I think that's where I'm getting it wrong.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
All right.
I'll share my code too on the Google Classroom. I'll also share this code there. So you can play around with it and even add more values if you want. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. And for those of us joining the data analysis class,
Yes,
good luck
sir.
and see you
Okay.
on this day. All right. Thank you.